I'm Eric Butts.
I'm Jim Butts.
And we're live at Suicide Fantasy Football headquarters, giving you a little bit of a taste of what you should be considering when you're making your first pick this year in a traditional fantasy football league.
Just because we're Suicide Fantasy Football doesn't mean we don't play in other leagues. We've been playing fantasy football 13, 14 years, all over, wins and losses, who knows. And I always wonder if my first-round strategy is the right strategy.
You know, a lot of people say you win or lose your draft in later picks, but you really can't afford to not get a guy that's going to put up big points in the first round.
Sure, if your first-round pick is a bust or gets hurt in the first or second week, you're in trouble in most leagues, no matter what you do.
I agree. Jim, so what's the main thing you're thinking about when you're taking that first pick?
My first-round pick normally, if I'm in the top 4, 5, or 6, I want the best running back available.
Yep.
But when you get down into 7, 8, 9, 10, I always go against the grain. I want the first quarterback taken. I'd like the best quarterback who I think is going to make more. And if you listened to me last year, you would have taken Aaron Rodgers instead of Chris Johnson, like I said, and you would have probably won your league instead of losing with Chris Johnson who struggled all year long.
Wait, Jim, we were in a fantasy football league together, and you had the first pick, and who did you pick?
I don't remember. I had the
Chris
first pick.
Johnson.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I picked Chris Johnson.
I had the 12th pick. Who did I pick?
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh.
What did I do with Chris Johnson?
Traded him.
Okay.
When he started to stink.
Yeah, well.
So here's another example why you don't always listen to this guy. Because what he says and what he does are sometimes two different things.
Listen, you can't when the league was 4 points for a touchdown, I picked Chris Johnson.
Very good
When it was
point.
6 points for a touchdown, I was going to take Aaron Rodgers with the
Now I
pick.
totally agree with that. I'm going running back at almost whatever pick I'm at in the first round, unless I've got that 11, 12 pick where just all the running backs are gone, and now I'm either picking the 8th running back or the first wide receiver or quarterback.
Yeah, I'd rather have the second or third best player at the position than the 9th best running back.
In a way, I hear you, Jim, but in another way, you know how fantasy leagues work. You got to have usually 2 running backs. And how many good running backs are there in the league?
I guarantee if you go through and look and see last year's backs, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks, scored points. It's not always the number one guy. It's Chris Johnson, I'll tell you that. Adrian Peterson was probably a little bit of a bust last year. Arian Foster wasn't even drafted in most leagues, or if he was the 13th or 14th.
Stop, Jim.
Eric, I'm telling you,
You have a very bad memory, Jim. Arian Foster was picked in the 2nd or 3rd round in most leagues.
He wasn't.
Last
He was
year.
a pickup in a lot of leagues.
Crazy.
Do your research.
You do your research, dude. You had Steve Slayton and didn't even know about Arian Foster last year when he ended up being one of the best backs in NFL.
I knew he was there.
You didn't pick, dude, 13th, 14th round. Now you're just
Tell me.
crazy. I will say one thing, you're right. You can get a guy with value at the running back position later on in the draft. But to me, that first pick's got to be running back. To me, go wishbone. 1, 2, 3, running back, running back, running back.
How many leagues you won?
On to the next subject now. Check us out, suicidefantasyfootball.com. Follow us on Facebook and listen to our fantasy advice, not just suicide fantasy advice.